Lynda Kinkade. We are following CNN's continuing coverage of the war in Ukraine. The European Union is taking punitive measures against Moscow straight to the top. Germany's top diplomat says the EU will sanction Russian President Vladimir Putin and Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. The German minister says both men are being targeted for sanctions because they are responsible for the fact that innocent people in Ukraine are dying. CNN's Jim Bitterman joins me now live from Paris. And Jim, there has been much criticism by Ukraine about the West for not doing enough to help them. We are seeing Germany now take action directly targeting the Russian president. Other countries haven't followed suit yet.
Exactly, Lynda. I mean, I think what we're waiting to see what this third round of sanctions. Now, they've already announced 2 rounds of sanctions against Russia, and we're waiting to see what this third round of sanctions they've been talking about this afternoon. The European Council has been talking about to see what it beholds. The fact is that that German foreign minister's statement about taking direct action against Putin and Lavrov, in fact, is what he believes will be in this third round of sanctions when we get the details, but we haven't gotten them yet. They're a little bit late in coming, and perhaps we are over-anticipated it, but there may be some debate going on that we don't know about. In any case, that idea that they would sanction the assets of the foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, and Vladimir Putin, in fact, is a little bit ambiguous, because the fact is that both of these men very lavish lifestyles. Putin is thought to be one of the richest men in the world. And the fact is they've probably had more than enough opportunity to hide their wealth behind shell companies and properties that are managed by others and things like that. So it may be very difficult to attack their assets directly. The other thing that's come up in the meetings here, in the sanctions meetings here, is that in fact Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, said that he had direct conversation with Putin overnight, trying to get him to stop the invasion. He said we obviously that had no impact. And he also said he found that Putin was very duplicitous. So the question was, why are you continuing to be involved? Why do you continue to try to be the interlocutor here in the situation? Here's what the president of France had to say.
Mais je pense que c'est de ma responsabilité.
I think it is my responsibility, first of all, to take such initiatives when they are requested by Ukraine, and then, while condemning, while sanctioning, while continuing to decide and act, to leave this path open so that the day when the conditions can be met, we can obtain a cessation of hostilities for the Ukrainian people.
And in fact, we're waiting again for that sanctions package to come down, but also as part of it, we're expecting to see some aid packages. The French this afternoon announced that they're going to provide about 300 million euros worth of humanitarian and defensive aid to the Ukrainians. So the Europeans are trying to step up, perhaps not as fast as the Ukrainians would like. Lynda?
Yeah, of course, the French president did try to lead the European effort to avert this war in Ukraine. Facing a lot of criticism in the lead up to an election there in France. But I want to ask you, Jim, about the SWIFT international global banking system. There's been a lot of discussion about why Russia is not stripped from that. Where is the reluctance coming from?
Well, I think there's a couple of areas. One in particular is Germany. The Germans have said fairly clearly that it would be complicated, as they put it, for them to distance Russia from the SWIFT system. Complicated because the SWIFT system is a couple of things. It could very well backfire on the European community and other countries in the West because of the way the payment systems, clearance systems work. Another sort of suggestion is that the West is afraid that it could drive Russia towards China, that perhaps between Russia and China they could come up with some kind of new SWIFT payment systems, an alternative that would probably long-term would not be a great idea. Lynda?
All right, Jim Bitterman, staying across it all for us from Paris. Good to have you there. Thanks so much. Well, the United Nations Refugee Agency says more than 50,000 Ukrainians have fled their country in less than 48 hours, the majority of them going to Poland and Moldova. We have seen people crossing into Poland all day Thursday, many of them making the journey on foot with whatever they could carry. Our Scott McLean has more.
We've gotten new numbers from Polish authorities who say that 29,000 Ukrainians have now crossed into the border or crossed into Poland since all of this started. Where we are is about 30 minutes inside of Poland. We're at a train station. The town is called Przemysl, and what's happening here is a train arrived here about 20 minutes ago from Odessa. It was delayed by about 4 hours because we are seeing huge delays right now on the Ukrainian side when people need to get that exit stamp to leave. This is also being used as a reception center for people who have arrived. So you can see just inside this room, they have cots set up for people to sleep. Obviously, hotel rooms right now are at a premium. If you were on one of these trains as well, you were undoubtedly one of the lucky ones, because we were on the actual border last night, a pedestrian crossing not far from here in a town called Medica, and there we were hearing from people that were waiting 10, 12 hours just to cross the border outside. And remember, part of the delay as well is what the Ukrainian president announced, and that's that men between the ages of 18 and 60 are not being allowed to leave the country. And so on the trains at the border, they are pulling men out and telling them, sorry, you have to stay inside the country. Let me just take you inside the station here, and you can see the huge influx of people. These are folks who would have arrived on this Odessa train, and now they're trying to figure out where exactly they can go from here, trying to get help with any paperwork that they might need, trying to figure out where they might stay, and try to figure out how long they might be here as well. Remember, John, a lot of the Ukrainians that we have spoken to simply did not believe that any kind of attack was actually likely to take place, and so they were undoubtedly caught off guard. They were packing a bag as quickly as they could, and then heading toward the border, whether it be on a train, on foot, or on car, where we are also hearing that it is taking many, many hours in order to get across the border. And so it is undoubtedly a chaotic situation here inside Poland, where people just simply don't know how long they're going to be here, when they might be able to go back.
A difficult situation there. Our Scott McLean talking earlier to John Berman. Well, Israel is among the countries offering humanitarian aid to Ukraine. Prime Minister Naftali Bennett spoke with Ukraine's president Friday. In a statement, Israel says he offered Vladimir Zelensky assistance as needed. He also reiterated his hope for a speedy end to the war. Across the world, thousands are taking to the streets to protest the Russian invasion of Ukraine. There have been demonstrations in cities across Russia despite the risk of arrest. Authorities have detained protesters, saying Russians do not have the right to organised protest actions without permission. Well, on the other side of the world, Australians voiced their shock and anger at President Putin's war. Demonstrations were also held in Taiwan. Well, former Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko spoke to CNN a short time ago from the streets of Kyiv as the Russian military was closing in. Armed with a Kalashnikov, Poroshenko called Russian President Vladimir Putin simply mad. And he said Ukrainians are ready to fight for their country.
We Ukrainians are not standing in line for the bread or for the cash from the bank machine. We are standing in line for the weapons. We are standing in line to give our blood to our soldiers. And with this situation, definitely we demonstrate a unique quality that we can stand against Russian aggression. We can stand against Russian occupation. We are united together with the whole world.
That was former Ukrainian president speaking there. I'm Lynda Kinkade. We're going to have much more on our breaking news of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Stay with us. You're watching CNN.